we hack the code and flip the tag. Where cliches come to retire. Drop that beat, turn down to fire. Say what's real, make fears take a seat. Unconventional wisdom, dancing on your feet. Hey.
Hello and welcome to Unconventional Wisdom, about conventional wisdom. I'm your host, Kim Miller-Hershon. I am excited for you to meet my guest today, Laurent Cohen. And let me tell you a little bit about him before we ask him his random question. Laurent is the founder and CEO of Go Oblique, and it is a voice-first AI platform helping local businesses never miss a customer call. He's got over 20 years of entrepreneurial and technical leadership across Europe and the US. And now he builds AI tools that handle real phone conversations, books appointments, and capture leads automatically. Laurent helps business owners understand how to use practical AI to save time, recover missed revenue, and simplify daily operations. And he is the proud father of three. I am a mother of three. He was born in France. He lived in the US for 23 years, and now he's living in Israel. All right. So, your random question. How did a volcano eruption in one part of the world almost bankrupt your business in another part of the world?
First of all, Kim, thank you so much for having me. For the people that are listening, we've had a pre-call a few weeks ago and it really clicked. And I was really excited being here tonight, wherever we are on this side of the world.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know what? Let's start with the end of the story. Everything is fine now. And I would add that as humans, we have this thing is that everything eases with time, right? And the worst thing that happened in your life can often turn after years into some kind of fun story, or at least a learning curve, educational, you name it, formative. It's what's also interesting, before I really dive in the story, is that the story literally created an event on a single day that changed my life for the rest of it, and that really put a strain on me for the next 4 years. So you see, you had this thing that happened in your life, and then for 4 years, you're struggling to come back. And actually, usually, and I think that works for almost everyone in the world, you come back stronger. That's what makes us human, the survival mode. And so now let's start with the beginning of the story. So I was living in America, and I started working in the digital world in 2002. Doing e-commerce, and it was the most beautiful years of my life. I was young, my children were born, and my business was blooming. And by 2007, I really was doing great, but I was hitting some kind of glass ceiling. So I started looking, how can I break that glass ceiling? But as an entrepreneur, that's really the obsession that you have, because things are not easy. You work, and sometimes you just hit that wall, which in a way, I was fine. I was perfectly fine. You're ambitious. You want to do more. You want to go higher. And so I had opportunities that came up from mentoring people. And in return, it gave me opportunity to buy other companies that were similar to mine. I was selling health and beauty products at that time, but I had the opportunity to buy a toy e-commerce company and then a fragrance e-commerce company. So basically, whether you sell toys or fragrances or health and beauty products, at the end of the day, it's the same job. You have to know SEO, search engine marketing, you name it. And I was quite good at it, right? By 2009, I was ready for this wonderful year coming in front of me. The three companies were blooming. I saw this glass ceiling ready to crumble down. I was so excited to see the Christmas season coming, because as you can imagine, Christmas season is a big event in e-commerce, and especially related to toys, fragrances, everything that you can put under the tree, right? So we're good. Round one is starting. We're hiring people. We're working 7 days a week. The warehouse is packed. We're ready. And actually, the season for anyone listening is really starting in October. You have early buyings and everything. So we see that we're going somewhere big, and we are. By early December, we're already shipping 1,000 packages per day. It's not even Christmas yet. We're very excited, ordering pizza for the team every lunch, at night, you name it. It was great, great. And just so you frame the picture, the core of my business was shipping outside of the US, basically buying American products that were not available abroad and selling them abroad. That was good. Except that December 10, I put the TV on and I hear about this Iceland volcano that is erupting. And I don't know if you remember that event, Kim, but it created a massive ash cloud all over Europe.
Wow.
No airplane could fly out, literally. But at that time, I think the news was saying it might disappear tomorrow or next day. So I was not really worried, right? But it didn't. And it took about a week to have around 15,000 packages stuck in Jamaica and New York, just waiting to be delivered across on the other side of the world. And then you start receiving email. And I've got a legit company. I want my customer to be happy, and especially it's Christmas. You want to disappoint the people around, the loved ones that are waiting for the gifts. So you have to shift delivery mode to customer relationship mode. And at that time, we did not have AI to support us. So you have to reply to around, 3,000, 4,000 emails per day, phone calls, trying to reassure people about what was happening. But they got really bad. It lasted up until the end of December. So a lot of packages were very late. People were very upset, as they should. But I did succeed into maintaining a relationship with the customers, trust, and we'll come back later on that subject. But trust was the foundation of what I had built before for years. So at the end of the day, you give discounts, you apologize, and the gifts come late, but they come, and people understand that it's an act of God. It's an act of God. Except that January 10, exactly 1 month after the eruption, I come at the office on a Monday morning, and the Bank of America didn't see it that way. And although I had maintained a chargeback around 1.4%, which was pretty decent considering what had happened, it was above 1%. And they don't care about act of God. They just care about the little light bulbs of that screen on Monday morning that says, we have a problem with this one. So then I don't have a merchant service anymore. So I've got 5 websites, I've got thousands of orders, but I cannot charge in a credit card. So now it's round 6. I got hit. I'm counted down to 8. That means something for anyone that knows boxing. I remember vividly that night coming back home, and my wife just saw my face. I didn't have to say a word to knock down.
Yeah.
Because you just don't understand what's happening here. So now you have to find solutions, right? And the reason I'm explaining it this, because I'm going to go a little bit further and go away from the event itself and what it created as a businessman and as a man, actually. I had to find solutions. So you have sleepless night, you call banks, when you find those gray shark merchant services that charge you 12% and that kill your profit. But then you have to do something, right? So you do that. And from breaking the glass ceiling, I'm stepped back 5 years. And I'm struggling for 3 years to just get my head out of the water. My profit is out of the window. I'm just paying those guys just to maintain a business. And then I decided to sit down after a few weeks of being just knocked out. And the solution I found was a mental solution. And the mental solution was, this is my fault. This is not an act of God. I cannot accept that this is an act of God. I've made mistakes. I should have been ready, not for the volcano, but for a event happening, thinking differently. And then I started thinking about, what did I do wrong? And I know what I did wrong. For instance, around 2008, during the financial crisis, I was living in Florida and I saw the world crumbling down around me, and I was doing great. And it gave me a sense of invincibility. If I can sustain that kind of business while everybody's suffering, I'm invincible. And that was the first thing I noticed. And I would tell anyone listening, take responsibility, take accountability. Don't be the one that keeps on repeating 20 years after something bad had happened to you. Hey, this happened to me. this was not me. This was something else. I was just a victim. You are not a victim when you're a business owner. If you decide to be a victim, it's over for you. So I said, okay. I did put all my eggs in the same basket. I was feeling invincible. I didn't jump on the social media blooming marketing yet. I had put outside the side because everything was doing great. What did I do wrong? And I started listing. I literally took a Word file and I was typing. I did this wrong. I did this wrong. So, boom, boom, boom. You know what I'm going to do now? Not only I'm going to put my company back on track, but I'm going to do what I did not do before. And I started putting all my heart, pouring my heart into just climbing back the ladder, doing everything I missed, and understanding that it will never happen again. And actually, from that moment on, so it was around, I would say, 2012 until 2013, I built another line of products that were based on marketing with the social media that were sold in the US because I didn't want to have the risk of shipping products 6,000 miles away. I needed to have to spread my eggs around multiple baskets. And you know what happened? I had the biggest success I've ever had. It literally flew by 2013. By 2017, it was the biggest company I ever created. Just because I was blessed to have this volcano.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a believer, you say God. If you're not a believer, you say that's your destiny. But at some point, I didn't hear the signs. Everybody's struggling around you. You are not. Don't be so sure. Okay, I'm gonna prove you that you're not invincible and that you have to move your. And that's what I did.
Yeah, I do think that this idea of learning, listen, things happen in the world, right? We can't protect ourselves from all the possibilities. But I do think you make a really interesting point. It's funny, this came up when I was talking to my assistant recently, was that I was like, it actually is around a former client who didn't end up paying their contract. They didn't end up paying the full amount of their contract. And I was saying I had information beforehand that they could be a little squirrely around money. And the reason I'm saying it is because it never occurred to me that they would do the same thing to me. Like I had the information and I didn't structure the contract to make sure that I got paid, right? And it's interesting because I take the same train of thought that you did, which is, isn't that interesting, Kim? You had the information and yet it never occurred to you, if this is the way this person walks through the world, then why wouldn't they do it to you? Like it's not personal to them, right? That they do this to everybody. But I think it's fascinating that somehow it's not like I thought of it and thought, oh, they won't do it to me. It didn't even occur to me. So I take full responsibility for that, right? That is a hard lesson learned. But I agree with you. I think there's something very powerful in taking the part of it that it's yours, right? And making sure that you do the work that you need to do because I can tell you as a business coach that many people they just become victims, right? And they just think about the part of it that where they got injured. And here's the thing, it's truth, right? Like when that volcano happened and you couldn't ship, like those are real consequences. You didn't make that up. But I do think it's really incredible that you're able to say, okay, like there were actually some things that I could have done that could have eased the pain of this, and or here's the things that I need to learn so that I don't repeat that mistake.
That's exactly it, Kim. And just circling back to what you just said about what happened to you, I was very much conscious of my vulnerability, considering that I was shipping abroad. I knew that anything could happen, not necessarily a volcano, but anything could happen. Of course, anything could happen. No, a strike or a
Right.
war or you name it. The worst thing that happens is when you get too comfortable. We do get comfortable as humans. Maybe not when you're Elon Musk. Those are the people that apparently have this kind of energy very early on too. where you just always stayed in the danger zone. And I've learned that now. Maybe I'll have another volcano in my life, and I've had other things, but now I'm aware. And the other thing is, that's what I started with when I decided to account you with the story, is that you have a story that lasts 10 minutes to tell, but then you live it for 4 years. And from the moment that thing happened, that moment of joy that goes to the moment of hell, until you decide to take accountability, it's another 2 years. So that's what I want to tell everybody who's listening. It takes time. Accept it, that it takes time. It doesn't mean that those 2 years were not painful. They were very painful. It doesn't mean I didn't do anything for those 2 years. I worked my ass off, but I was not accountable yet. I was still a victim. And you wake up literally a morning. It's also a thing where it's not really a work in progress. It's not that I say, I'm going to take accountability next month. No, you wake up a morning and you say, things going to change. Now I know. Now I have these lights coming in my head. Say, I know what I've done wrong, and I know what I'm going to do from now on. And of course, it's a learning curve. Of course, you can tell that story to 1,000,000 person, and those 1,000,000 person will not understanding because they haven't been through it, or they will understand part of it because they have been going through something similar. But since it's not exactly the same thing, it's very hard to put all the bricks together. But at the end of the day, Kim, this is all the same story. It happens to everyone. And I would say when that happened, I was almost 40, which means that I had been blessed in my life not to go to that kind of pain. But also I could say that I would have wished I had that kind of problem very early on. What I'm trying to say, Kim, is as people that are working in the workplace, we all have our lessons at some point. We all have our big lesson or lessons. It depends.
Yeah.
But you'd rather have it very early.
Exactly.
First of all, thing.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say is that I had a client really early on that it's one of those clients that you're like, this is not a good match for me. But it was really early on and I was just building the business and it was like, you want the money. And you know what I call her? She is the gift that keeps on giving, because that is a mistake that I will never make again. Oh my God.
This is exactly it. You want that to happen early on. Of course, you don't do things for that to happen, but at least, embrace the signals. Embrace the lesson. Take it. That's good. I need my lesson. And I think that's why athletes can be very performative in the workplace, because in a way, they're used to endure the pain of losing or being disappointed, you name it. And I think that when you haven't been through that as an athlete, you will get your knocked out. But that resilience you're going to build is going to lead you. And that I want to stay on that positive note. It's going to lead you to do something even better afterward. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's change gears, because you're a really interesting mix of a lot of different cultures, right? So you had a lot of different, I think, like conventions and norms about what business was going to look like and what success was going to look like. I don't know if you got that from your family of origin or you got it like when you started working and you saw like the successful people and you thought, okay, this is what this is going to look like. But what was something that you were doing that was conventional early on that you thought was going to lead to success that you were like, oh yeah, no, this does not work for me?
My father was a small business owner.
Okay.
Coming from no money and struggling all his life. And when I say struggling, it doesn't mean that at some point he was not successful. It's just that being a small business owner is a struggle. This is very complicated. And he had that thing where we shared a lot on that subject. He never talked to me as a baby or a young kid. He was talking about his pain. And I think he respected me enough to think that I would understand what he was going through. So first of all, that's part of the answer. When you're raised in an environment that people working in small business, this is a special kind of living. Small businesses owner live in the moment. There's always in the danger zone. You don't have quarterly, you don't have yearly, you don't have boards supporting you, you don't have 30,000 employees. You have just yourself, maybe 1, 10, 15 employees, that you really rely on you. You cannot rely on them. So that was the other thing. And then the second thing that was really important as a person that I understand very early on is that I'm creative. Whether it's good or not, I don't know. I guess you make it something good, but when you're creative, you cannot work near the water cooler or the coffee machine. No, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. Or maybe you think it will work, but I do not think so. And very early on, I said, I need to create. And I also understood that I perform from 0 to 50. I like to bootstrap thing. I like to create. That's where I find my excitement. And actually, going back to the story I said earlier, that was also on my list. What did I do wrong? What did I get comfortable? Because when things are a little bit too good and too comfortable, I get bored. It's not that I stop working, but I get bored. I don't find the energy. When you start hiring people and you have to manage people, that's when you need to build a company with people that are going to take care of this person for you and let you full time on your creativity. And that's the turning points that's very complicated to do for, again, a small business. Whatever you're doing, when you go from 0 to 5 million or 8 million, you're still a small business. And we all hit, depending on our what we're selling, that moment that is very hard to go through because you need to structure. That's a job, Kim. You need to find help outside, people to give you a perspective on what you're doing wrong, because it's a very lonely place when you're owning a small business. All the thing, it made only sense for me to start a business, which I did very early. And it was in France, where I was born and raised. There's the thing that I love to say because I deeply believe it, that when you're born in Europe, and especially in France, they teach you patience and craftsmanship. You take time to build things. You go into details. This is why you have those health and beauty companies or luxury companies that are still blooming to this day, because they have this sense of beauty, creating something beautiful, which is very unique to that part of the world. I think maybe Japan has that kind of culture too, but France specifically has it. So you learn that, right? And then I had the American dream. So I went to America in 2002. And then you dive into an all new world where it's not more about craftsmanship. It's about efficiency. You have to be efficient. You want to create a product, you want to create a group product, perfect. But you have to think about the go-to-market. That beautiful product will not sell by itself. You have to destroy walls. So you learn that. You adjust yourself to the new environments because you're excited. You live that life of just moving around. You have to embrace it too. You have to embrace the culture. You have to understand who you're talking to. So now I'm learning all these years about efficiency, right? And with the last opportunity I had to create a new business, I decided to do it in Israel, where it's no more about craftsmanship, for sure. It's not even efficiency anymore. It's urgency. When you have bombs flying over your head every day and you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, will you have internet or electricity? Now, okay, let's do it today. Let's not even go to market. Today is the day, not tomorrow. And again, you have to adjust to that, right? So now you have this kid that learned about craftsmanship, that is this young adult that learn efficiency, and this man, elderly man, I don't know, learn about urgency, and you figure out that it becomes your wealth. This is not about money anymore. This is about what makes you who you are. And I'm very grateful for all those experiences. And the other thing also that I've understood with those travels and cultures is that, first of all, if you want to sell something in a market that you don't know, learn about the culture, learn about the people. You don't sell to a German like you sell to a Chinese man. You don't sell to an American like you sell to an Australian. They might share the same language. They're all different. They all have specificities. Learn it. And actually, in every aspect of life and work, learn every day. A day when you don't learn a thing is a wasted day, literally. Especially in the AI era today. You don't have any excuse not to learn anything. Every single morning, every single night when you go to bed, don't scroll on social media. Open ChatGPT, open Gemini, ask a question, learn something. You didn't understand a sentence during your work today at your work, and you may believe that you understood. Get home, deep dive inside it, try to learn something. So the funny thing is, I learned that when you live in Israel, when you talk with someone, usually a yes is a yes and a no is a no. There's no fooling around. Because in America, when you talk with someone, usually a yes is a no and a no is a yes. The reason is very simple, is that in the US, if someone likes your product, you will start negotiating. And the best way to negotiate is say, you know what, I don't like your product. But if he doesn't care about you and your product, he's going to say, oh, yes, of course, it's great. You got a great solution. You're going to be very successful. Bye-bye. You'll never hear from me anymore for another day. And all of this is very good, right? Except that when you live in France, yes and a no are both maybes at the end of the day. There's always this kind of long term, simply because when you live in America, people work with you because they want your product or your solution. That's the only thing that matters. The solution at the price. In France, it's slightly different. They work with you because they like you. You create a relationship. You go to the restaurant with people, your business people. Really, that's still in the culture. They like you. They cannot function in the business place if they don't like you. And you come to America and you want people to like you in the business place, right? But they don't care about you at all. And that's also a learning curve. So all those things, again, that's the same story of the volcano. It doesn't come in one day. You have to go through it. It takes years, weeks, if you do learn it, by the way.
Right.
But you do learn it if you decide to engage with people. And that's also another thing in the age of AI, when people think that AI will cut us from real life. And I think it's going to be exactly the opposite. I think we're going to cherish real life more and more.
Interesting.
That's what we do as humans.
All right. And you might have touched on this already, but as a successful leader, what's one thing that people assume that you have figured out on the outside that you still wrestle with on the inside?
They assume that I figured out everything while I figured out nothing. No, literally, because it's not that you figure out nothing. It's that the more you grow spiritually, mentally, intellectually, you understand that you start seeing all the things you don't understand and don't see. So basically, you keep on learning new things. So you still probably trying to be a better person and a better worker, but then you see the amount of things that you don't know. I would say that's true. People come to you, ask you for advice, and you try to help. But deep inside, you have this imposter syndrome always, because you know that there's so much to be learned, and there's maybe a little bit less years in front of us to learn it. Yeah, I guess that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. If you could rewrite the rule book on leadership, what's one outdated belief that you would throw away, and what would you replace it with?
The more you grow, the more you're surrounded with people that tend to tell you the thing you want to hear, the less you rely on what has made you and what is your number one strength, which is intuition. Because when you start and you're by yourself, what do you have? Knowledge is literally nothing. Skills, never enough. You always need more skills than what you have. But if you've been through it, it means you had that intuition that brought you there. When people surround you, you start doubting your intuition, because you say, okay, I'm going to change the way I think. Maybe because I have all those people around me now, I'm more structured. Maybe I need to listen more. That's the worst thing. That literally the worst thing that I did. And I strongly believe now that my intuition is good. I'm proud of it. And I need to stand on my ground when it comes to taking this kind of decision. It doesn't mean that you're not listening. It doesn't mean that you have to be obnoxious or you name it. But your intuition took you there. It has to be good. You know, what they say about the stomach, it's like the heart and the brain. There's nervous system here too. So if your stomach tells you what you're doing right now is wrong, it's the wrong decision, hear it, listen to it. I would tell anyone that never forget who you really are and what brought you here in the first place.
You know where I thought you were going to go with this is really interesting. I was literally just listening to a podcast with Reed Hastings, who is the chairperson of Netflix. Netflix. And he was recalling a story. His executives not pushing back on him, right? Not giving him feedback. And I can't exactly remember. Anyways, if anybody wants to listen to it, it was an interview on how I built this with Guy Raz. But I don't remember exactly what the decision was. That was a really costly, bad decision that he made. But nobody was willing to stand up and say, I don't think that's a good idea. And I think there were a lot of, once they debriefed, there were a lot of people who thought that it wasn't a good idea, but there was no forum by which anybody gave public feedback. So nobody said anything, which, and I think it ended up leading to some different processes that they put in place in order to get the feedback. So it's two sides of the coin, right? I do think that what you're saying is that you do have to listen to your intuition, and it's what makes you a great entrepreneur and successful. On the one hand, at that point, it wasn't really an entrepreneurial venture anymore. Netflix was very well established and it was a public company at that point. But I think it is interesting when you've had success in the past, so you make a big directional decision and nobody questions it, even if they think that they're wrong, because you've had success before. So you're like, okay. And then turns out that had he actually asked for feedback or gotten feedback, he might have made a different decision. Again, I can't exactly remember what it was, but it was very big and costly. That part I remember.
You have exactly the same story, Kim, with Mark Zuckerberg that lost $80 billion with the metaverse a few years ago. You might be the biggest company in the world and it might not be a killer mistake, but I guess it hurts in a way. But that's really not the problem. And you know why, Kim? Because when you really literally took it out of my mouth when you talk about this, I think the coin we're talking about and those two faces, you have the intuition. But what really helps, because intuition can lead you to the wrong path, we just talked about that, you have the accountability. If you don't have accountability and you have only your intuition, you might end up on the side of the road. And if you have accountability but zero intuition, there's nothing to be accountable to about. But if you have both, you make mistake. But then again, okay, that's for me. That's not me. I'm going to do better next time. So
Right.
It's two faces of the same coin. Exactly.
Exactly. All right. What's one unconventional habit or mindset shift that's helped you grow? You've actually talked at least about one thing, which I think is really extraordinary, which is really taking responsibility for your own actions, which sounds like a basic skill, but I think is lacking very often. So, what else do you think you had to shift, or a habit that you changed that's really helped you be successful?
There's many things. One very practical thing that worked for me is that I had a tendency to be very nervous, not necessarily nervous around other people, but really inside. I guess that I did a lot of work on that and it really helped. And I would imagine that a lot of people are confronted with that pain of taking things at heart, everything, every single thing, pain. So meditation helped a lot. I discarded that for years, thinking I'm not Buddha, so it's not for me, but it really was good for me. And the interesting about that, by the way, is that I didn't have to do it for years. It was like when you go to the chiropractor and adjust your back. You can do it for 6 months and it adjusts your mind. If you want to do it more, be my guest. Great. But yeah, I did it really intensely for those 6 months and really adjusted my brain. I think it needed adjustment, like my back.
Yeah. My brain often
So
needs an adjustment.
exactly. So that's one practical thing. The other thing was, okay, you're a business owner, ambition. You need to have ambition. But my ambition was probably limited by my conscious or subconscious things. And I was blessed enough to find a new business partner on my adventure that had a lot more visibility and scalability and unlimited game vision that helped me see beyond what I thought I could do. Because I think I had it in me, but sometimes you have to open your chakras. And that's why I wouldn't tell that having a partner is good for everyone. Actually, it's like a marriage. It's a very complicated marriage because there's a lot of divorce too in that one. So I would not say that, but it most certainly can help if you make it for good reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that Meeting the right people and deciding that we can do a piece of the road together can be good.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. All right. I have one more question for you. It's a two-parter. So you mentioned before imposter syndrome. So I want to know two things. The first thing is if this part of your life, if you are going to feel imposter syndrome, what is likely happening that's going to make you have that either trigger you or feel a lack of confidence or however it is you define imposter syndrome. And then the second thing is you talked a little bit about meditation, but what else do you do to get yourself moving forward again?
As your first question, I don't have much ego as a person, which I think was a downside. You think you mix ego and being humble, all those things.
Mm.
And unfortunately, at some point, when you reach a certain level in business, you have to stand up and be a little bit more proud. And it's not that I didn't receive any good energy from other people saying that, I was estimated in a way. No, I'm still. But when you don't have much ego, that's probably what links to the imposter syndrome, not the other way around. I don't think having the imposter syndrome hurts your ego. So I think I've worked on my raising a little bit my ego, trying to, and
That's so
that's the
funny.
hard.
Because you know what I would say? I don't think it's necessarily about business success, but I would not be, I'm not lying, but I wouldn't be transparent if you don't think you have ego around. I would say that I'm not somebody who has a big ego just in general, but like for the things that you are good at, I would say I definitely have ego around that stuff. You said you're super creative. I'm also like a super creative person. So, I don't know, maybe I don't have ego. Maybe I'm just judgy. But I can definitely be judgy about other people like who aren't good at the same things that I'm good at. You don't have that?
Ah, yes, but I don't express it.
Okay.
I
Okay.
no, literally.
So what I'm
I just
hearing you say, what I'm hearing
I push back.
Oh, okay. So what I'm hearing you say is I need to just filter it a little better.
Kim. I do. I do.
Fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah, let's work on it together, Kim.
Yeah. As I always like to say, really and truly, one of the ways that in which I have matured is not everybody really and truly needs to hear everything that I think and feel about what happens around me or with other people. I can filter.
Most
I can have,
certainly.
yeah.
And the way you're expressing it, I can exactly understand because I think it all comes down also for some people to be very sensitive and to be highly sensing everything around. But when you have that, you tend to either protect yourself or be overwhelmed. And I think that's part of the answer I could give you. You just have to put that aside, try to be as neutral as you can.
And I do think that so much of imposter syndrome it really is, it's about comparing yourself to other people, right? Because if you were just thinking about yourself, I don't know if you would feel imposter syndrome, right? It has to be relative to something else. And I think just in the same way as when you were telling the volcano story, and I was just so impressed with your ability to take responsibility for the part of it that was about you, right? And was about your thinking and your actions and your planning and so forth. I think a lot of times the same thing around imposter syndrome, your energy would be so much better spent in figuring out your own stuff than worrying about what everybody else is doing.
So I would agree with you, but I would also tell you that there's another layer to it because I feel that I match a little bit more in the other layer. And let me tell you quickly what it is. That remember I said earlier that I think that it's very important to be a learner in life. And the more you learn, the more you learn how to learn, right? So you receive things quite fast and understand faster and be able to put that into action. But in return, what happens? And I live that every day now, especially again in the AI era, where you tackle a subject with AI, and after a week, you know a lot. You can already perform, right? But then this thing come into your head, on the back of your head, say, if it took me only a week to do that, I must not be that good. You see what I mean? Yeah, maybe I'm an imposter because last week I didn't know nothing about that. Now I can do it. I guess a lot of people I can do it like me or more or faster or what still.
Right.
And I have people surrounding me telling me that this is not true at all. First of all, some people don't just do it, don't learn things. And when they learn, they might not be able to get it as fast or what. So I think that's also something important here.
How much do you think, this is a totally random question, but I think in our world, right? You're immersed in AI every day. Obviously, that's what your product is. I think in the business world, I don't know anybody around me, another business person that is not embracing AI in some way or another, right? But I think also, do you think that we live in a bubble? Like in terms of AI adoption in everyday life, also too, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, right? You live in Israel, super tech, right? Like I'm in the Silicon Valley, you're in like tech haven there. Do you think that we live a bit in a bubble around AI, or do you think that there's adoption, like widespread adoption, really across the world or across the US?
Many things to say on that subject. First of all, yes, we do live in a bubble, but that bubble is not only geographical. I'll let you give you a very quick example. Myself, 10 months ago, I was deeply thinking that I was using AI. And now, 10 months after, I understand that I was really not using AI. And I'm pretty sure that in 10 months, I will look back and say I was far from using AI. So that's me. And then again, that the people around me, that's just because they open Gemini and ask a question, they think they're using AI. And they are, in a way. There's no problem with that. But what I'm trying to say here is that the realm of possibilities that you have with AI is gigantic. This is probably what humanity have been doing in that such a short time, which is the most important advance. And now the other thing also that I think is what AI does on people. And then it gets very interesting. It gets very interesting. And I like to compare it to money. I think AI is just as money. First of all, those two things are in themselves inert. They're not bad. They're not good. They're just nothing. They are what us as humans do with it.
Right.
So when people, it used to be said, or I think it's still very much true, that when you don't have money, you are who you are. And when you start having a little bit more money or a lot more money, every single aspect of you becomes bigger, larger. If you're a good person, your money will make you an even better person usually. And you're a bad person, it's going to turn you evil. And AI in that aspect is exactly the same. It's a generator, an accelerator of who you are.
Interesting.
And if you put in perspective those two things, now that you have the history as a species we have with money, now you can foresee what's going to happen with AI. And basically, AI in its way also is a currency. Money is a currency of wealth. With AI, you can buy knowledge. You give tokens and you get knowledge. And the more token you give, the more knowledge you get. And with money, you can buy people. With AI, you buy agents, right? So you see the similarities here.
Yeah.
So where are we going to go with AI? And now I'm answering exactly your question, exactly like money. We're going, the gap between rich people and poor people will be larger and larger. It's not like people are going to get more and more into AI. It's like a lot of people are going to stay on the road, which means they're going to have access to AI, but a very limited access. And a lot of people that will embrace it will have a limited access to AI, limited knowledge, and the limited agents, for that matter, working for them.
So interesting. Oh my goodness, so many good things. I just want to thank you so much for your time. What an interesting, engaging conversation. I just so appreciate all the value that you have given. So tell us where would you like people to reach you at? Or your AI agent?
Agents.
Agents. There you go.
Yes, Kim. First of all, thank you very much for having me. It was a real pleasure having the discussion with you. I would tell anyone that they can just visit our business website, which is called getoblic.com. And if they go on the footer of the website, we have tons of social media. And if anyone has a question or want to discuss AI or life with me, I'll be more than happy to answer. They can just leave a message on any of those platforms and I'll be able to get in touch with them. And if you have business owner here listening, they can just go on the directory at getoblic.com and create their business listing for free, which will allow in turn for them to have immediately a voice AI deployed for free. And it would be probably the first step to understand what is AI, voice AI, and maybe gain that lack of trust that people have with AI these days.
Okay, good. And friends, for me, I have two asks. One is look in the show notes and sign up for the newsletter. We're getting really good feedback. It's once a week, it's on one subject. It also has some tips in it. And then if you are listening in audio and you can't see me, I am super into fashion. So there's always a picture. And then the second thing is we're starting some free webinars. So if you want to have some discussions about your own leadership, about the shoulds and the shouldn'ts and all the things that help you be successful, join one of the webinars. You can register below. They're complimentary. We're running them monthly. And they're live. So you can also ask your own questions. And I think it'll be really valuable. That's it. We've done it. Thank you for listening. Again, Kim Miller-Hershon, Laurent Cohen. You have been listening to Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom. Go out there and be a better human.
Where cliches come to retire. Drop that beat, turn down to fire. Say what's real, make fears take a seat. Unconventional wisdom, dancing on your feet. Hey.